Mark Wren stood in the center of the great hall of the 7 warrior clans. His armor was cracked from battle, and smoke stains still covered his chest. He had survived the Galactic Crucible, the deadliest tournament in alien history. No human had ever reached the final round, but Mark not only reached it, he won it. Now thousands of alien eyes watched him with awe and confusion. Some whispered his name with respect, others with fear. All of them waited for the moment when he would receive the champion's reward. A tall alien commander stepped forward. His skin shone like polished stone. His voice shook the entire chamber. "Human Mark Wren, you have earned the right to choose a bride from any of our clans. This reward is ancient. It is a symbol of honor and alliance." Rows of alien women stepped forward. They stood in perfect lines, each one representing a powerful clan. Some had glowing tattoos, some had silver wings, some had smooth crystal skin that sparkled under the hall lights. They looked like warriors, queens, and legends. Mark scanned the rows. Everyone expected him to choose one of the famous names, the strongest clan, the most beautiful daughter, the best alliance. But he paused. At the very end of the hall, away from the lights, stood a woman no one introduced. Her armor was old and scratched. A long scar cut across her cheek. Her posture was low, almost defensive, as if she did not want to be seen. While the others stood proudly, this woman stood alone in silence. Her name drifted through the crowd like a joke. Vexa, the damaged one. Mark felt something shift inside him. He couldn't explain it. She looked like someone who had fought battles long before this ceremony. Someone who carried pain but did not show weakness. Someone real. The commander raised his hand. "Champion, make your choice." Mark lifted his arm and pointed straight at the scarred woman. "I choose Vexa." The hall exploded with shock. Some aliens gasped. Some laughed loudly. Others stared as if Mark had lost his mind. The commander blinked, confused. "Human, do you understand your decision?" "She is not. I choose her," Mark repeated. Vexa looked up slowly. Her yellow eyes widened for a moment, not with pride, but with warning. It was as if she wanted to tell him he made a mistake, as if she was hiding something dangerous. The commander cleared his throat, struggling to remain formal. "Very well. The choice is yours." But Mark noticed something strange. The commander wasn't looking at him. He was looking at Vexa with fear. Real fear. Then Mark saw movement in the shadows. A small figure silent, watching. It looked like a child, but its eyes glowed faint blue. The moment Mark saw it, it slid back behind a pillar and vanished like mist. Mark stepped forward. Who was that? Vexa's expression tightened. No one, but her voice was not calm. It was shaking. Later that night, Mark entered the home assigned to him, and Vexa, dark stone building on the edge of the alien city. The air felt cold, heavy. Wrong. Mark placed his hand on the wall. Someone had touched it recently. Someone small. A soft sound echoed from the ceiling, like tiny fingers tapping, like breathing. Watching. Mark whispered, "There's someone else here." Vexa closed the door behind him. Her voice was low and serious. "You made your choice, human. Now you must accept what follows." A small silhouette appeared in the darkness above them, eyes shining like stars. A child's voice echoed softly. "Why did you choose my mother?" The voice from the ceiling made Mark freeze. It was soft, but it carried something powerful beneath it, like a storm trapped in a child's breath. Vexa stepped in front of him quickly, blocking his view. "Stay back," she warned him. But the small figure crawled down the wall with unnatural grace. It dropped to the floor without a sound and stood in the faint light. She looked like a young girl, maybe 10, maybe 12, but her eyes were bright blue, glowing like fire trapped inside crystal. Her skin was marked with strange lines that flickered like energy circuits. Mark stared in shock. You're her daughter." Vexa shook her head. "Not by blood." The child tilted her head, examining Mark like he was a puzzle. "He chose you," she whispered. "Of all the warriors, he chose the one hiding a monster." "Lyra, stop," Vexa said sharply. "Lyra." The name felt dangerous. Mark took a slow step forward. "I'm not here to hurt anyone." Lyra's eyes narrowed. "You should leave before they come." Mark frowned. "Who?" Vexa grabbed Lyra's shoulder, pulling her close. "Enough talking. Go to your room." But Lyra didn't move. "They will smell him," she replied. "They always do." A cold chill slid down Mark's spine. Who is she talking about? Vexa sighed, her expression heavy with years of fear. "There are things you don't understand, Mark Wren, and I hoped you never would." But the child stepped forward again, ignoring her. "They will come because you chose her," Lyra said softly. "The council doesn't like when their secrets walk free." Mark stared at Vexa. "Secrets? What secrets?" Before she could answer, a deep boom echoed outside the house. The walls trembled. Dust drifted from the ceiling. Lyra instantly moved behind Vexa, trembling. "They found us." Vexa cursed under her breath. "Mark, stay behind me." Mark refused. "What's happening?" Vexa grabbed her weapon, an old, curved blade with glowing edges. "You weren't supposed to see Lyra." "No outsider was. The council ordered her to be erased years ago. They think she's unstable, dangerous." Lyra squeezed Vexa's hand. "They think I'm broken." "You are not broken," Vexa growled. "You are my daughter. They have no right to take you." Mark looked between them, stunned. "The council wants her dead." Vexa nodded slowly. "And now that you've seen her, they want you dead too." Outside, footsteps approached, heavy armored, disciplined. The sound of elite soldiers. Mark recognized it instantly. "Council enforcers," he muttered. Vexa nodded, her eyes cold and hard. "They're not here to talk," Lyra whispered. "Mother, if they take me, you know what they will do." Vexa's jaw tensed. "I won't let them." Mark stepped beside her. "You're not fighting alone." Vexa stared at him, surprised. "You don't owe us anything. You could run." Mark shook his head. "I made my choice. I'm not abandoning you." Her expression softened for the first time. "Then you must be ready." The door exploded inward, shattered by a blast of energy. Smoke filled the room. 3 armored enforcers marched through the doorway, their weapons glowing. "Vexa of Clan Nakar," the leader announced. "You have violated council law. Surrender the child immediately." Vexa raised her blade. "She is not your concern anymore." The enforcer pointed his weapon at Lyra. "The hybrid must be contained." Mark stood beside Vexa, fists clenched. "You're not taking her," the leader sneered. "Human, you don't know what she is." Lyra stepped forward, her eyes burning brighter than before. "Yes," she whispered. "Tell him what I am." Energy crackled around her small hands. The enforcers aimed their weapons and fired. The blast hit the room like a thunderstorm. Blue energy shot across the walls, burning long scars into the stone. Mark grabbed Vexa and dove behind a broken support pillar as the air sizzled with heat. But Lyra didn't move. She stood in the open, small and calm, as the beams raced toward her. "Lyra!" Vexa screamed. The blasts reached the child and shattered into light. The energy bent around her like water around a stone. It wrapped her in a glowing sphere, humming with power. The enforcers stumbled back in shock. Mark stared with wide eyes. What is she?" Lyra slowly raised her hand. The air shook. The lights flickered. The leader of the enforcers shouted, "Contain the hybrid. She's activating." But it was too late. A pulse of energy burst from Lyra's body, a shockwave that threw all 3 enforcers across the room. Their armor cracked. Their weapons flickered and died. Dust settled. The house grew quiet. Lyra looked down at her hands as if she didn't understand what she had done. "I didn't mean to hurt them." Vexa rushed to her, pulling her close. "You did nothing wrong." Mark stepped forward slowly, trying not to frighten her. "Lyra, that wasn't normal power. That was something else." Lyra's glowing eyes lifted to him. "They made me like this. Who?" Mark asked. "The council." Vexa answered instead, her voice filled with anger and pain. "Years ago, the council began a secret project. They wanted to create a perfect warrior, part alien, part something else, something stronger, something unstoppable." Mark frowned. "And she was their test." Vexa nodded. "They created her, then realized she was too strong, too unpredictable. They feared she would become a threat, so they tried to erase the project, and everyone involved." Mark looked at Lyra again, at the child trembling in her mother's arms. They were going to kill a child because they feared their own creation. Vexa shook her head. "No, not kill. Control. She can sense emotions, energy, power. She can bend it, change it. The council wanted her as a weapon, but she was too young to control it." Lyra whispered, "I didn't want to hurt anyone. I just wanted a family." Mark's heart tightened. "So you hid her?" Vexa nodded. "I ran the day. I learned their plan. For years, Lyra and I lived in the shadows, always moving, always hiding. The council pretended she never existed, and hoped no one would find out." Mark replayed the moment he chose Vexa in the hall. "That's why they were shocked. They didn't want anyone near you." "Yes," Vexa said. "They feared you would discover her." Lyra stepped closer to Mark, staring at him with those glowing blue eyes. "You're not afraid of me?" Mark crouched to her level. "No, I'm afraid of the people who want to use you." Lyra's voice shook. "They won't stop. Not now. They know he's with us. They'll bring more soldiers, stronger ones." Vexor looked at Mark. "We have to leave this city, tonight." Mark stood and checked the weapons lying beside the fallen enforcers. "I agree, but running won't solve anything. The council won't stop until Lyra is captured." Vexor took a breath. "Then what do you suggest?" Mark's face hardened. "We find out the full truth. Everything they tried to hide. If Lyra is so important to them, there must be a reason they fear her." Lyra stepped between them, clutching Vexor's hand. "They fear me because I am not just a weapon." Mark raised an eyebrow. "Then what are you?" Lyra looked up, her eyes glowing brighter. "I am the heir. The last one. And if the council loses me, they lose everything." Before Mark could speak, alarms began to ring across the entire city. The council was coming in force. Sirens echoed through the alien city, loud enough to shake the ground beneath their feet. Red warning lights flashed outside the broken doorway. Mark could already hear the roar of engines, troop carriers, dropships, machines built for war. The council was coming. Vexor grabbed a small pack from under the table and tossed Mark a compact energy blade. "They will surround the district. We must move now." Mark checked the weapon, feeling its hum. "Lyra, stay close to your mother." Lyra nodded, but her eyes were distant, glowing with a worried blue light. "They're bringing the Ascendant Guard, not normal soldiers." Mark frowned. "Who are they?" Vexor answered with dread. "Elite hunters, trained to capture creatures like Lyra. They don't fail." Lyra trembled. "They were the ones who hurt me when I was small. They put needles in my skin. They tried to open my mind." Mark's jaw clenched. Rage burned through him. "They will not touch you again." They slipped out the back entrance as shadows filled the sky. Dropships descended like dark birds, sealing off escape routes. The streets glowed with the blue lights of armored patrols. Vexor led the way through narrow alleyways. "There is a safe place under the old tunnels. From there, we leave the city." But they had barely reached the next street when a heavy thud hit the ground in front of them. A massive figure stepped out of the smoke hole, heavily armored, carrying a long, glowing spear. An Ascendant Guard. He scanned the three of them with cold, unblinking eyes. "Vexor of Clan Naka, surrender the hybrid child. You have no path left." Vexor raised her blade. "We fight." But Lyra shook her head. "No, he isn't alone." More armored figures landed behind them. 5-10. The alley was blocked on both sides. Mark tightened his grip on the energy blade. "We're surrounded." The guard stepped forward. "The council has decided. The hybrid must be controlled. The human will be erased." Mark stepped in front of Lyra. "You can try." The guard tilted his head. "You do not understand the truth. Human, that child is a danger to every species. She is unstable. Her power is not natural." Lyra's voice broke. "You told me the same thing when you put me in that cage." The guard's expression did not change. "You were created for service, not freedom." Vexor lunged with a roar. The guard blocked her strike easily with the spear, sending her crashing into a wall. Mark rushed in, delivering a fierce strike to the guard's armor. Sparks flew, but the warrior barely flinched. The guard grabbed Mark by the throat and lifted him. "You fight with courage, but courage cannot save her." Lyra screamed, her eyes blazing. Energy swirled around her like a living storm. The other guard stepped back defensively. "Release him," she cried. The guard laughed. "You cannot control your power. You are chaos." Lyra's voice trembled. "I don't want to hurt anyone." Mark managed to punch the guard's visor, distracting him for a split second. Vexor leaped again, slashing the guard's leg. He stumbled. Vexor shouted, but Lyra didn't run. She stepped forward, tears falling down her glowing cheeks. "You lied to me. You all lead." The energy storm around her grew brighter, shaking the walls. The guards aimed their weapons. "She's charging, contain her." But Mark saw her face. She wasn't attacking. She was afraid. He reached out, grabbing her hand. "Lyra, look at me. You're not a weapon. You're not what they say you are. You choose who you are." Her glowing eyes met his. "They won't let us go. Then we fight together," Mark said. The guard shouted, "Open fire." But before the shots could land, a sudden explosion blasted through the alley. Metal shards flew. Flames lit the night sky. A hidden transport ship dropped from above, and a familiar voice shouted from inside. Mark ran. "Vexa, get in now." It was a human voice. Reinforcements had arrived, but not from the council. The transport hovered low over the burning alley, its engines shaking the ground. A metal ramp dropped open, and a familiar human figure leaned out, a bearded pilot in combat gear. "Mark, move," he shouted. It was Captain Harris, Mark's old squadmate from Earth. Mark grabbed Lyra and ran toward the transport, Vexa covering them with precise strikes. The Ascendant Guards tried to regain formation, but the explosion had disrupted their ranks. Harris fired suppressing rounds, clearing a path. They leaped onto the ramp, just as the guards launched a volley of plasma shots. The transport jolted upward, engines roaring as it climbed through narrow streets. Inside, Mark set Lyra down gently. "Harris, how did you find me?" Harris smirked. "Your signal went dark. The Galactic Council told Earth you died in the Crucible. We didn't believe them." Vex's eyes widened. "They lied to cover their plan." Harris nodded. "Yeah, once we intercepted encrypted council files, we realized they were hiding something big, something about an illegal hybrid project." Lyra lowered her head. "That's me." Harris stared in shock. "That kid has enough power to terrify the entire council." Vexa answered softly. "They fear her potential, not her actions." Mark added, "And they'll keep hunting her unless we end this." Harris pointed at the forward screen. "Well, you're about to get your chance. They're sending drones and fighters. They're not letting us leave orbit." Vexa clenched her fists. "We confront them now, or we run forever." Lyra stepped forward. "I don't want to hide anymore." Mark placed a hand on her shoulder. "Then we show them the truth." The transport pierced through the clouds. Ahead, the glowing spires of the council tower rose like a massive fortress. Hundreds of defense drones swarmed around it. Harris bit his lip. "Mark, this is suicide." Mark shook his head. "No, this is justice." He turned to Lyra. "You said you were the heir. The last one. What did you mean?" Lyra took a breath. "My power. It didn't come from their experiments. Not fully. Part of me comes from the first line, the ancient rulers who created the clans. Their blood vanished long ago, but I inherited it." Vexa nodded. "She is the rightful heir to the throne the council stole." Mark stared at the child in front of him, small, scared, trembling, yet holding the power of an entire civilization. "They tried to hide you, because if the people knew you existed, their rule would collapse." Lyra whispered, "Will you help me show them?" Mark smiled. "Until my last breath." The transport dove toward the council tower. Drones fired streams of energy, but Lyra raised her hand. A shimmering field formed around the ship, bending the attacks away like harmless sparks. Harris shouted, "She's doing it. She's shielding us." Mark grinned. "You're incredible, Lyra." They crashed through the tower's upper balcony, landing inside the council chamber. The high command rose in panic, shouting orders. Guards rushed forward. Mark, Vexa, and Harris formed a protective circle around Lyra. Lyra stepped into the center of the room. Her eyes glowed brighter than ever. "No more lies," she whispered. A pulse of energy radiated outward, not violent, but powerful enough to force every council member to their knees. Their screens flickered, their weapons shut down, the chamber froze in silence. Lyra spoke with a voice that carried ancient authority. "I am Lyra of the first line, heir of the throne you stole. You hunted me because you feared the truth." The council elder trembled. "Child, you cannot control the legacy you carry." Lyra stepped forward. "I don't need control. I need choice." She raised her hand. The entire tower shook, but she did not unleash destruction. Instead, she released every encrypted file, every secret experiment, every hidden crime, broadcasting them across the planet. Millions watched. The council's lies were exposed. Mark whispered, "You did it." The elder fell to his knees. "What do you want from us?" Lyra looked at Mark, then at Vexa. "A family, and peace for every clan." The elder lowered his head. "Then it shall be." Mark placed a hand on Lyra's shoulder. "The galaxy will know your truth now." Lyra smiled through tears. "You chose my mother, and you saved me." Vexa stepped beside them, placing her hand over Mark's. "No, you saved all of us." And in that moment, Mark Wren, the human who made the strangest choice, stood beside the girl who would reshape the future of an entire civilization. The war ended not with destruction, but with truth, and their story had only just begun.